Michigan. If you don't, you really need to know about this. At the University of Michigan, the black students are standing up. They're basically saying that things need to change, or they're going to continue to push until they get what they want. And as you can imagine, I am so supportive of this. I love it when black people stand up. You can't spend your whole life sitting down. And so one of the people that has helped me to keep abreast of what's going on in Michigan, so that the rest of our community, our family, our network is aware of what's happening, there is Miss Johari Shuck. I call her Dr. Shuck now because I know she's going to be Dr. Shuck very soon. But right now she is a PhD student in higher education at Indiana University. She's also an alumni of the University of Michigan and a concerned citizen. So I want to ask Miss Shuck, how are you today?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing very well, very well. So I don't want to call you Dr. Shuck too many times, because I know that if your advisors see me calling you Dr. Shuck, then they might get mad at you. I don't want to get you in trouble. But I respect you as a fellow scholar, and I'm so happy to get a chance to talk to you. Now, can you kind of start us from the beginning in terms of what's happening at Michigan, what the students have been doing, and then we can kind of move forward and figure out or talk about what's happening right now. So give us the foundation of what the nature of the disagreement happens to be.
Okay. Well, the beginning of it really started back in November. There was a situation at Michigan where there was a party that had some kind of racially derogatory theme to it. And from that point, the Being Black at University of Michigan movement started with the hashtag on Twitter, and it kind of just took full steam really quickly. And then in January, it picked up again after Harry Belafonte came to speak on Martin Luther King Day, and the students presented the administration with a list of 7 demands at that time. So basically, since January, things have been moving pretty quickly and very positively. But a lot of the things that they were asking for focused on improving the campus climate for not just black students, but students of color. But black students happen to have been the ones to really start the conversation. So the Being Black at University of Michigan campaign kind of started back in November.
Okay, so how has the movement been going? Have the students been able to maintain a unified front? Are the alumni helping them? I mean, are they achieving any of the goals that they're seeking to accomplish?
Yes, there's been a lot of progress. Things I believe the students and us as alum and the people that are watching are very excited about the developments that are taking place. The biggest thing that are going on right now is that the students are regularly meeting with the administration on a weekly basis to discuss each of the demands that have been put forth. So the students are meeting tremendous amount of time in addition to studying. So they're, really putting in the work to make sure that change takes place on campus. Some of the latest developments are really in negotiations right now, so it's really political, and there's a lot of things I can't specifically address, even though I know that there are deeper things than what I can share. But I will just express some of the things that they're sharing on their Facebook and through Twitter, the Black Student Union. They're trying to set this up so that people are informed and so that the campus community is unified. So they've made some agreements on the budget that they've asked for. They're kind of in negotiations about what that's going to be. They've also made some progress on the Trotter House, which is a multicultural center that's currently situated just a little bit off campus, not in a really convenient place for students to get to. So they're trying to move that to a more central, easily accessible location. So they're making progress on that. And they're also making progress on helping with off-campus transportation. That was one of the issues, is that some students are forced to live outside of Ann Arbor because of cost. It's cheaper to live, further on the outskirts, like closer to Ypsilanti, Michigan, where Eastern Michigan University is. And so that causes problems for students that have to stay on campus late to study or what have you. So that's one of the things that they're also trying to help with, getting transportation for off campus, which will benefit all of the students, not just the black students. So they're making a lot of progress in that way. They're also really trying to unite the campus in terms of the different black organizations and other organizations of students of color that are aligning with the Black Student Union. So they're really pushing to unify the students in general behind these initiatives that they're trying to put in place for all the students.
Okay. Interesting. So it sounds like, I mean, when you talk about things like transportation, I'm wondering, so how much of this movement is driven by a need to make the campus more user friendly or more welcoming for students of color versus sort of fighting for these things that are not unique to black students or students of color, right? I mean, the transportation issue, that's interesting. I mean, I know when we did we did a campus protest at the University of Kentucky when I was in grad school, and we weren't really fighting on things like that. We were fighting for a bigger budget for the Black Student Union. We wanted certain people to remain on the faculty and on the staff. We wanted to make changes to the curriculum. So are they, I assume that they're bringing those sorts of things to the forefront, right? Like issues with curriculum and, programming budgets and things like that, right?
Definitely. The curriculum was one of the things listed on the demands. But as you can imagine, having been in the academy, how challenging issues with curriculum and changing that can be. So that's one of the things that is going to take a lot more time. And it's going to take more people within the campus community to kind of figure out what that's going to look like. But that is definitely one of the big issues, is educating the student body. So the curriculum piece is in there, and that's still under negotiation. So that is one of the important things, as you talked about. You need to help other people understand why this is an issue, and education is the way to do that.
Interesting. Well, it's funny. It's funny, Johari. When I think about, my experience as both a student and a faculty member on campuses, I think a lot of strides can be made with some very simple core areas, and that's number one. When you talk about who you're admitting on the campus, we have to address the fact that there's a huge disparity between the number of black athletes that are accepted versus the number of black students, right? And we know why, right? The universities make millions of dollars. Michigan is at the top of the list. They make millions of dollars from athletes. Many of them are African Americans. And so we are supplying tens of millions of dollars to that specific university every year from our athletic ability. I mean, in fact, it's over $1 billion a year we're giving to the NCAA. And I think that we don't unify well enough as a community to kind of leverage that, to kind of say, look, if you're bringing in all these black athletes, don't assume that the only reason we belong on your campus is because we can dribble a basketball or throw a football. And then when you look at some of these egregious violations that are occurring on the academic front due to universities' commitment to financial greed through the athletic department, you just find these hugely unethical violations of the students' right and ability to actually learn on the campus. I mean, the University of North Carolina has just admitted that they weren't educating their football and basketball players, right? And Michigan, right. I think a couple years ago, Michigan's coach got in trouble for forcing the athletes to, work harder or put in more hours than they're supposed to put in.
Yeah.
So I think that, I think right there, I think we should be deeply offended by the idea that many of these campuses that will tell us, on one hand, we can't admit any more black students, will bring in black athletes by the boatload. That's bullshit. Excuse my French. That's bullshit. Right. Second thing, curriculum. I know that there's a huge amount of bureaucracy that universities have built over the years. When they were built and established at a time when black people were not allowed to attend or allowed to teach there, fine. Okay, the white guys got a head start. They got a couple hundred years to kind of put in their stuff and make it a fundamental part of the learning experience. And then we come along and they're like, oh, well, we can't teach black history because we're teaching European history 1, 2, and 3, and we're teaching this and this and this. No. I mean, sometimes you got to kick the door in. sometimes you have to basically make it plain. Look, we're not going to allow you to give us an excuse. We're not going to allow you to tell us to be patient. We're not going to allow you to somehow tell us that what's already established is so important that we can't do what is right. And I think about, situations I wouldn't recommend, but, you think about Samuel L. Jackson when he was at Morehouse in HBCU. Him and his friends in 1969 went and literally held the Board of Trustees hostage at gunpoint to get what they wanted.
What?
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that, but Samuel L. Jackson, you don't talk about gangster, okay? That was gangster. Cornell University, at Cornell, and I think it was early 70s, late 60s, something like that, the black students went into the administration building with guns and occupied the administration building, stood their ground, and they, some of them got arrested, but to this day, Cornell has one of the best black studies programs in the country because the students demanded that black studies program. They said, we don't want to hear you tell us that the budget ain't there. We don't want to hear you tell us to be patient. We don't want to hear you tell us that it's hard to change the curriculum. F all that. We're here to get what we deserve, and you need to work around the excuses, because if you let people hand you excuses instead of results, what they're effectively doing is they're taking their problem and instead of solving it themselves, they're putting it on you. So I think the students there, I'm hoping that they understand that balance between, kind of working with what's there, but not being patient. You have to be impatient, because the first thing universities will do is they will look at the leaders, they will look at the campus leaders and say, okay, when will these key people graduate? And because they know that the minute they graduate and you hit the lull of the summer and everything's kind of like, kind of taken off the map, the movement kind of just disappears and fizzles away. I think the third level, and then I'm going to let you talk, but I wanted to make these 3 points. The third level is, I think you can make a huge difference on a campus by looking at the composition of the faculty. Why is it that you can go to a campus like University of Michigan? I bet you, if you go through that campus, you will find academic departments that have never hired an African American in the history of that department, or never tenured an African American in the history of that department. That is egregious. I think that they should make a list of those departments that either don't have black people in them or have never given tenure to a black person, and go to them and say, why is this the case? We know qualified black faculty are applying for these jobs. We want to be involved in the hiring process. Don't tell us that every black scholar who applies for a job here is unqualified, because we know that's a bunch of BS, because you hire a whole bunch of white guys because they know the right people. So ultimately, I think, so when Dr. Johari Shuck applies for a job at her alma mater, you're not going to have, these gatekeepers, some of whom might be racist, say, oh, well, we interviewed Johari and she was very nice and she was good and she worked with some amazing advisors, but she just wasn't a good fit. Well, no, the students need to be there in their face saying, why wasn't she a good fit? Explain to us why she wasn't. We thought she was a good fit. Yeah. We like her. We know she's qualified. So we have to fight those battles. We have to fight them aggressively. We have to be impatient, and you got to be nasty. People, this is something people don't understand. And I know I'm just talking so much, but it's coming out of me. People don't understand.
No, go ahead.
People don't understand. White supremacy was established. White people got their power not by being nice. They got it by being gangster, by being aggressive, by fighting for what they want. So the fact is that if we're not aggressive about getting what we want, if we are passive, if we are weak, if we are disorganized, if we are too patient, then we're going to continue to allow the next generation to endure the very same issues that we're facing right now. So I think the students should be impatient. Now I'm going to let you go ahead and talk, and I'm literally going to mute my microphone because I'm just talking way too much.
Okay, well, I just want to address the points that you just raised. In terms of the athletes, you make a very valid point. And one of the images that came across of this whole movement, it was a picture of a young lady holding a chalkboard, and on the chalkboard was written, "I'm more than just a wide receiver." So that gives me an indication that there is something there in terms of being able to incorporate that group of students. And like I said before, they're really trying to unify the students to kind of mobilize more than what they're doing now. So I think that there is some kind of relationship that might be there, but how athletic departments are, that can be a very tricky position for athletes to put themselves in. Not to say that they shouldn't, because I think that they absolutely should get behind the students that are on campus that are experiencing these things. but it's a hard situation for them to get involved sometimes because, there might be a fear factor there. They might not realize that there are people that will advocate for them if they did choose to join. They might not be aware of those things. So I think that's something that they really will be working on in terms of trying to include that group, because that is a significant population that has continuously helped Michigan. So, I think that that's a force that we can use to kind of help our cause as well. And that's happened, throughout history. That. So that's the thing about the athletes. In terms of the curriculum, I think that the students are very educated about the history of activism at Michigan. So back in the 80s, when there was another Black student movement, that's when the University of Michigan implemented the race and ethnicity requirement that they currently have. So there has been a history of students mobilizing and making that change happen within the curriculum, and the students now are aware of that history, so they kind of have that knowledge of that precedent. So I think that helps them become relentless in the way that they are in terms of making sure that they're not letting up, because this group of young people, they are very aggressive. They are very determined to accomplish what they're trying to accomplish. Even the students that are leaving, they're still very committed to making sure that things change. So I have no question about their tenacity. They definitely have it. And, they're still young people that are college students that need to have fun too. So, there's a balance there. But in terms of everything that they're going through, they're handling it in the best way possible, I believe. So I don't think that they're going to let up. The fact that the alumni has been involved as well, kind of, pushing another force onto it. We're really trying to make sure that the accountability is there, which is why I'm talking to you, which is why we have, other folks writing, publishing op-ed pieces about this. So we're really, in a full-on blitz about this whole situation and trying to make sure that there is accountability there. We're also in touch with the Black Student Union on a regular basis. I talk to some of the students. So this is not going anywhere. And actually, it's, momentum is kind of spreading outside of Michigan. And, I'll talk about that in a minute if there was any other questions that you had about that. But it's really, the steam is still going on. I don't think it's going to let up anytime soon.
Well, I think that's awesome. I'm so glad people are behind it. I'm glad the students are behind it. I hope students on other campuses are paying attention, that they realize that students have all the power. I mean, you are the sleeping giant. The administrators are just praying every night that you don't wake up, because you really can change a lot of things if you just try. And I'll end what I have to say with a quote from Huey P. Newton. Huey said that the revolution has always been in the hands of the young. The young always inherit the revolution. So never think that you're too young, too insignificant to make a difference. In fact, you're really the nation's greatest hope. So I'm immensely proud of what they're doing in Michigan. And I really wish them the best. Now, is there anything else you wanted to share? I'm going to bring you back pretty soon so we can keep getting updates. But is there anything else on the ground that people should know about?
Yeah, I do want to mention just kind of to piggyback off of what you just said, the fact that other students are listening. Within the last week, I believe, a group of students at Dartmouth they submitted some demands to the administration there. And it was a big group of students, not just Black students, but Latino students, not disabled, but, students with inabilities, different issues, marginalized that feel marginalized on campus. So they consulted with the students at Michigan. And so people are reaching out to the students at Michigan to try to get guidance to figure out how to, implement some same change on their campuses. So that's one of the great outcomes of this situation. So, this is going to happen at other campuses. And I know that this has happened, at campuses last year. I heard about a situation at San Jose State where there was some protesting, and from what I understand, nothing really has been done by the administration. They're not satisfied with the progress. I don't know a whole lot about that, but I do know that something happened there around the same time that the situation at Michigan happened back in November. And so, they need to maybe get some help that way, trying to draw attention to what's going on there.
Well,
but other than that, we are trying to help out others.
Well, I love it. I think it's definitely progress, and I think it's awesome that so many of us are now understanding that Twitter and Facebook is not just meant for you to take booty shots in the bathroom or selfies and get into arguments with people about, stupid stuff. I mean, social media, and the internet itself is an important part of Black history, because this is the first time in the history of this country that Black people have been able to communicate with each other without a filter, without media deciding what messages are going to be broadcast. The fact that I'm able to talk to you and we're able to talk to however many people are watching this video, that's something that couldn't have happened 20, 30 years ago. So we have to use that to our advantage. And I'm turning my phone off because I didn't turn the ringer off. So I think that this is an amazing time that we're living in, and we get to decide how amazing it's going to be. And I say that, you live once, and when you live in that one life, that one chance, you got to fight like hell, because once it's over, it's over. You're only going to be able to look back and see what you did and didn't do. So I just tell the students, go for it. Go for it. The future belongs to you. So thank you very much, Professor Shuck. Maybe I can call you Professor Shuck. I hope that's...
Yes, that works.
Okay, I'll call you Professor Shuck. Everybody, this is Johari Shuck. She's a PhD student in higher education at Indiana University, and you're going to hear more from her in the future. She has a lot of great things to say. And you may know me. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from yourblackworld.net, and I so appreciate all of you. Without us, or without you, we are nothing. Without us, I guess you guys could go somewhere else, but without you, we're nothing, and I so appreciate those who support us. So until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.
Thank you.